Welcome back, everybody. We are here with JP and Luke. This is the Star Wars CCG graded group update for February. So sorry this is delayed. As you can tell, I don't sound 100%. JP wasn't 100%. Between Luke, JP, and myself, we've all been super busy, but we're here and we've not forgotten about it. And we're going to go through everything with the contest. Winners updated on the contest, group updates. We're going to talk about the shows, some other curiosities in the graded world, and then we're going to wrap up with Luke's going to give us some of his updates on sales and stuff, which I know everybody's looking forward to. So let's kick this off. We'll get right into it. So our contest for January was Stormtroopers, anything with Stormtroopers in it, and we had a light but honorable mention showing. Not our worst showing, not our best showing. So, okay. Low ball. Unfortunately, JP and I were the only ones to do low ball, so I guess I take that. Yay me! But we're not here to talk about me or JP. Unique was the biggest category here. JP, do you want to talk about some of the unique submissions that were submitted and what kind of made this a little tricky?
Yeah, there's just so much interesting stuff that goes on. I mean, we take into consideration the actual uniqueness of the two cards that are being submitted, the grading services that you're going through, and the grades themselves. So, so we actually, just before we decided to start recording, we had a big long discussion on what all the differences are, and it's just getting tougher and tougher. You guys are presenting and choking the best stuff. The submissions for the unique were, I'm just going to go through them. Paul Hubbard had Stormtrooper PSA 9 and a Stormtrooper PSA 8. Now, I think one of those was Japanese. I didn't write that down.
Yeah.
Then Jason Farrell, he had the TK422, which was first graded by SGC, and then he switched it over to TAG. And then he had We Have a Prisoner for PSA 10. That was a good submission. We'll come back to that one in a second. And Benjamin Cantor had a great submission. He had two PSA 10 Japanese Stormtrooper related cards. One was a blaster rifle, and the other one was a Stormtrooper backpack. And I love both those cards. Super clean, come back perfect. But I'm going to let you give a quick rundown of what TAG, the grading service, provides.
Yeah, so I knew very little about TAG until something showed on Instagram of somebody cracking a Pokemon PSA 10 and resubmitting it to TAG. And I had seen that a few people had done this, and I was like, that's a thing? I was like, I would never consider doing that. But I looked further into it. So the quality of the delivery initially kind of took me back. They delivered it in a really nice box, and the slab itself came wrapped in plastic. It was like you were unwrapping a booster or something. Now the slab itself, I guess I don't have one, but the dimensions are fairly similar to what looks to be like a BGS or PSA slab, except it's clear in the label, so you can kind of see through it. It's transparent. But their grading system is way more detailed and nuanced and specific in that they give you a number 1 through 1,000. So let's say you get an 878 score, that would translate into a 9. Like it would just show on the slab as a 9, but it would have a QR code on the slab itself where you could scan that and you would see all the imperfections, notes, and pictures that they have of the card and the notes that they took in terms of the grading imperfections. So you can physically look at the card, imperfections that they highlighted and called out, and they grade everything specifically so you can see how they got to that score, which is super fascinating from a transparency standpoint and like an understanding of the card. And one of the things they do is they'll blow it up. They'll do like a color contrast on the card where they can really see the scratches. Of course, they can kind of measurements in terms of centering 50-50, 45-55 sort of thing. Way more exact if you really want to see excuse me, the hyper perfection of the card. So it spurred my curiosity a little bit. I kind of want to get a card from them and kind of see what that process looks like. And I don't know if I would take everything I have, crack it, and send into tag per se, but I could see the value in having something that's a really high value, maybe single card that you would want to brag or show off that it is truly of such high quality, given that they transparently show so much on the card. I know, Luke, you said you also looked into it a little bit as well, and we haven't had many Star Wars CCG tag cards, at least in sales. I'm not saying they don't exist. Maybe people are submitting them and just not posting or selling them, which is possible. But what's your take on it, Luke?
Yeah, I was really interested when our group member posted in the Facebook group about this collection that they've established and how they're really trying to grade more tag stuff. As someone who doesn't really grade, I've never submitted something graphic myself, but I do track the stuff, obviously, as you know, a lot. And I hadn't seen a tag product come out for Star Wars CCG. I was just really curious, like you were, Kyle. And so I looked into it as well. And I was also very impressed by how detailed it was, the full scan of a card and like seeing any like bumps on the surface of the card, and like that score out of 1,000, right? I'm sure there's a lot more to it that I didn't see, but that, at least for me, when I saw the breakdowns, I just thought, hey, this is a really interesting way to kind of like show off, to kind of be like, as you said, this card got this score because of this particular reason. Whereas with the other grading companies, you're flying a little blind. Like, obviously you're hoping by looking under a microscope with the right lighting that this is like gonna get a 10, but like to be more transparent and obviously to on the slab itself have something where you could just remind yourself, okay, cool, here's why this has this. I thought it was really interesting. I'd be curious if we see any more sales on this. I think the guy in the group was trying to sell some, but I don't know if that actually happened. Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I think if anything, it reminds me of just grading in general. There's something like everybody's looking for different things out of grading cards. And I think it's easy to forget that because we get into our narrow worlds, and especially when you're grading one specific type of card. Let's say for our group, Star Wars CCG, if that's all you grade, right, then you're only thinking PSA, right? But if you're only grading one piece, like really you want to be in BGS, like everyone's in BGS, right? And for another world, maybe basketball cards or something, like everyone's only doing SGC or something. Like there's different groups like that and different mentality, but there's also different goals for individual collectors, or maybe they like a certain slab because the way it looks, right? Or they like the grading company because they want all the transparency, or like when HGA was around, people just wanted that custom look and something to kind of show off. Or maybe they're looking for like a variety of things and they don't really care. They just kind of want the cheapest thing to submit or something that kind of just fits and works with the space they got. There's so many different reasons for this, and everyone's trying to prove that their point is better than the other, but like, that's great that there's something for everybody and that they have those options. And I think it's something the hobby needs to have as an option, something that is hyper transparent and shows what the graders are doing and sets a standard that is the same for every card that they're doing. So, good for tag. I'd be curious to get my hands on one to give more feedback. But if there's anybody out there who knows more about it or had a good reason to submit with them or cracked things to send to tag, right, I'd love to hear more on that take for sure.
We've got to announce that Jason Farrell actually won the unique category. So based upon, not it was just tag, but it was just such a unique submission. Good job, Jason. He wins the first order sleeves, which is super cool.
Sleeves. These first order card sleeves, so you can use them for games or for decks. It's pretty cool.
Yep. Super cool. Of course, I'm going to pass it over to you for top pair, but it reminds me. I remember reading that a couple of the grading services were going to start introducing AI and start increasing their resolution so that they can see more. So I guess somewhere over the past year or so, people are starting to increase their services for the grading. So it's it's kind of where we're trending to after hearing what tag. I'm definitely going to be looking into it and getting myself a couple of tags just to have on hand.
Yeah, it's fascinating. All right, so top pair in keeping with consistency here. Michael Lockwood had a very nice set of cards as rounding out for second place, but ultimately first place went to Andy Hallbrooks. And congrats, Andy! You will be getting Supreme Chancellor Valorum HGA custom label here, which is pretty sick. Andy had, if I'm not mistaken, the Stormtroopers 10 and 8, 10, or 10 and 9.
10 and a 9.
Yep. 10 and a 9.
Yep.
So good combination and good grades, obviously. So impressive submissions on both counts for both guys, though. Any final thoughts on this contest before we move on? I know this month, February, is gaming, pod racing, sabacc, gambling, anything of that theme. So good luck to those who have cards in that those categories. I recognize maybe not everybody has something like that, but hopefully we'll get some decent submissions so we can keep this contest alive. I know JP will have a submission. I'll definitely have a submission, so at least there'll be the two of us.
Yeah, it's good, and I love to see all the cards you guys have hidden. And don't forget, usually lowball has the best prize, in my opinion. So don't overlook that category. But keep submitting, and I know you guys have those cards out there. So good luck this month, and then we'll see how it goes. So
yes, prizes for February will be Boba Fett Reflections Foil PSA 8, BGS 9 Lone Warrior Black Border English, and a Sim Alu Reflections 2 Foil PSA 8. So these will be part of the prize pool for February. Good luck. All right, I'm going to pass it back again to you, JP, so you can give us the group updates and show stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. This is going to probably be short and sweet. It's been a really kind of exciting month. I know everybody's keeping their eye on the memberships. We surpassed 900 pretty quickly, and we have been collecting about 5 new members every week or more. So I just checked a little while ago. It's at 915. At this rate, we're going to be hitting 1,000 pretty soon in the next 3-4 months, maybe sooner. So we're going to try to do something super exciting for hitting 1,000. It's still amazing that we're growing as we are. People are still asking questions. People are still showcasing. People are selling stuff. It's been pretty healthy. I think there's only been maybe 1 or 2 people tried scamming, and it's so easy now. If they're not coining their images, if they're a name and a piece of paper with the date, just do something simple like that. Is the first question. Is even people in our group, they're like, well, can you coin yours? And they can't. And so if they don't reach out to me, I'm always watching in the group and I shut it down. So maybe you don't even get a chance to see it, but it's been so good just having that simple rule of proving that they're your cards. So just be careful out there, guys. And enjoy the group. If you've got stuff to sell or you're trying to, promote something you're selling on eBay, that's the place to do it. So keep on trucking. Members are growing. We're doing good still. The PSA monthly special hasn't changed any. It's still 20 cards, $16.99. And it's a 45-day turnaround. If you guys need to be updated on the PSA, they're really the only ones that have been advertising monthly for their specials.
Yeah, with a $500 value max, I think.
Yeah.
So even though it's more expensive by like $2, the max value is higher. So if you have those cards in the 300, 400 range that would not pass in those cheap bulk range, then that's what I used it for. I had some cards put aside in that category, so I put an order out.
Yep. And so finally, I mean, there's not much to really report on this month. Is that I'm going to the Kansas City Card Show this weekend. So I'll be there. I'm going to probably say 90% of my stuff is going to be Star Wars CCG. So I'm going to have a little Magic, little Pokemon, and then I've got some vintage sports stuff. I used to own a sports card store for many years. So among stuff out there too. We got a couple tables and a few display cases, and we're going to be prepared to go. And I'm just trying to have a presence there. I want to be a perpetual vendor for these booths, and just whether I sell a lot is not really the purpose. Is I want to keep it in everybody's face and show them kind of, hey, join the group. I mean, we got Luke here is going to be giving us an update. We track all of our sales, and we kind of run our own price guide. We know what the market's doing. It's a very organic industry that kind of runs itself. So it's not like I'm just picking out prices and numbers. This is what the stuff goes for. And that's the way people are going to be convinced. So
I have a question. I have a question for you. So how do you determine what cards you pick to put on those display cases? Because you only have so much room, right? You can put stuff in boxes or sleeves, but you do get space to display. I don't know if you have those flat glass.
Yeah, they're the flat glass ones.
Right.
That hold.
So clearly you're putting some show things in there. I imagine you're mixing in PSA, BGS, SGC, like a mix of different types. But how do you determine what goes in the glass case?
I mean, even stuff that's just sitting here. See, it's just priced out.
Okay.
$9. This put, like, BGS,
slap a price
and then like the very next one in line is PSA. So I've just got a little price gun that I've just been putting prices on them. I do have a bunch that have never been for, and I've kind of put a lower price on it. So I've got boxes and boxes. I'm probably bringing, this sounds crazy, I'm bringing around 200 slab Star Wars cards. And then I've got about another 200 raw cards that haven't been graded, but they're all Star Wars CCG. So the display cases, I think they hold 40 cards each. And then I've got little card holders and stands for all around. I've just got some other cool little things. I mean, you guys have seen, it's not near me. I'd reach and grab it, but I've got some of those things that are in cello packs that are in the larger, slabs that, they're not going to they're not going to fit in those cases or take up 2 to 4 slots. So I'm going to have stuff out on the table as well that's going to have to be presented on some stands. And so it's really kind of my first time doing Star Wars CCG in like 15 years. If you could believe 15 years ago, I was grading and going to shows selling Star Wars CCG graded cards. And that's in the group. You can scroll down and see the pictures from whatever it was, 2008 or 9. Anyway, this is kind of like my first time back, and I'm going to just start running the circuit. I'm going to do stuff in the Midwest here, St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield area, and just kind of be a presence there and just be a voice for the group and have, little signs up of how to join and see what it's all about.
That's awesome.
Now I'm going to record it. So I'm going to probably do a little stream. I think my son's joining me. He's going to probably be doing a What's Not from there.
Whatnot, yeah.
Yeah, Whatnot. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be running maybe some shows over the weekend. But I'm going to be recording and just kind of show you, like, walking in, maybe walking around the place. Maybe I'm going to find some other Star Wars related stuff. But I'll show you the booth and then just kind of talk through it, and then just have some content that we can kind of add to the site too, and start, showing off what we've got.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear the feedback on how all that goes, for sure. So that's fantastic.
Make sure to track any of those sales, JP, and get them to me, please.
Trust me. Literally in my notes, step 1 is to track it for Luke. I literally have that in my notes.
Thank you.
Love that. Well, Luke, since you've jumped in here, let's give you the floor. Obviously, you've had a bunch of new things that you're doing, but also some cool stats and some fun sales. So definitely tell us all about it.
Sure. And thanks for having me on, guys. The other thing I would say, too, just sitting here listening to you guys, I'm reflecting on the fact that this is like a 25-year-old card game that there's such a community over, that people are still so invested and so into, and that is really growing. Like like 5 members a week are joining this group. It's just really cool. Like, it's something that's really obviously fun. You can see the Uncut Cheats behind me that I'm really into. But I was really happy to jump on last time with a yearly update. And so Kyle and JP invited me up again just to kind of talk a little about monthly trends that I thought were noteworthy. I'm not going to go over like everything that I see, but just some major updates in terms of January. We are recording this in the middle of February and stuff has changed, of course. But since this is the update for the past month, I wanted to just talk a little bit about like my graded overview posts, which I do in the Facebook group, but I wanted to have this as like a sort of a video documentation, and also it's just like an annotation analysis of what we see. So in January, we had 108 tracked sales. Now that compares to 203 in December, 136 in November, and January of last year, 2024, it was 258. So, sales are down. Like that's clear. And I don't know, obviously there's some macroeconomic forces around. There's a new administration. There's people kind of holding on, whatever. That's interesting. The more interesting part to me is that average sale is way up. In fact, it's the highest it's been in a while. So the average sale in January was $96.96. That compares to 56 in December. So like almost up.
Big jump.
November was 84. January of last year, again, with way more sales, had an average sale of 78. So people are maybe picking and choosing, or more high value sales. The highest value sale in January was a Mark Hamill autographed card, which I posted on the group because I found that so cool. It was a Tuscan Scavengers card. It doesn't even have Luke Skywalker on it at all, but he signed it with "Don't touch my radio," and it sold for $1,100, right? Like,
and it's not just the autograph; it's slabbed. So
it's right. No, I wouldn't have added it. Like, I wouldn't have added it to the tracker if it wasn't slabbed. It's like a PSA DNA auto, right? So they had authenticated this and whatever. So I thought that was interesting. The other thing I thought was really quite interesting is that there's an Emperor Palpatine PSA 9 foil that sold for $1,000 in January, and that's high. And like in terms of historical comps, obviously those are very, very sought after cards. But just a PSA 9 selling for $1,000, that's
And that was the non-foil, right?
No, that's a foil.
Oh,
there was a non-foil, a BGS 9 that sold for $750, but the foil sold for $1,000. So we're seeing some pretty high sales points. A Darth Maul Young Apprentice foil that was a PSA 7, which again, another really sought after card, that sold for $750 as well. So you can see why the average sale is up. The cards that are really like the cream of the crop, no tournament foils sold this month with Imperial class Star Destroyer or Corellian Corvette or anything like that. But like if you're talking about Emperor Palpatine, Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, like obviously that's the highest sale of all time is Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight BGS 9.5. But like those cards are like always gonna hold value. When they go on the market, like you'll see a fair amount of people jumping in trying to buy it. In fact, I think that Emperor Palpatine foil was sold by Mark McConnell, and I think he mentioned to us that was like a best offer on something that he had up on eBay. And Mark will do this. Lots of sellers will do this. They'll put something up on eBay that's like really highly priced, right? Like way, way up there. Mm-hmm. But they have it as a best offer. So like if you're interested in that, then they're willing to talk to you and make a deal. And so I think like he had originally priced the Emperor Palpatine foil PSA 9 for something like, $2,000, $2,500. And then once a seller was like, hey, or once a buyer said, hey, I'm interested in this card, let's make a deal. Mark was like, all right, cool. Like, let's work this out. And then came it down to a best offer of $1,000. I mean, at least that's my take on what happened. I find, again, that really interesting, that give and take. And again, using our historical data on, pricing comps, as JP was just alluding to with the Kansas City show, and just getting it out there. Yeah, I found it really interesting. The last thing I thought I would share with the group is that we've seen a pretty big growth in CGC graded sales recently.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more out there. Cam just this month. I mean, this was a package deal, but he bought like a Commander Luke Skywalker CGC 10, a Ben Kenobi Special Edition CGC 10, and a Boba Fett Special Edition CGC 10. All three of those combined were $625 because he was willing to talk to a seller. And there is like a lots and misc tab on our graded and sealed tracker. So like that's where there's like multiple combined into one sale. Like that's where I put that. It's like, go look at that if you're curious for like bigger sales like that. But anyways, we're seeing a lot more CGC sales. I'm curious, like, when I first was brought on this project by Cam and Mark, like that, I remember seeing our first ever CGC sales was maybe like September of 2023. And now we're seeing like multiple sales a month. So, I don't know if it's up there with BGS or SGC, but like we're getting close to the point where like CGC is our pretty clear second behind PSA, which is obviously completely dominant as we've talked about. But yeah, we talked about tag at the top of the show, talk about some other, HGAs, this Supreme Chancellor's Blower foil that, someone's winning. I find this all fascinating to see what like different grading companies are out there. So yeah, that was my quick update on January 2025.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I was going to say there was something else I learned recently too. And it had to do with how I discovered about the tag stuff. I'm trying to find where it was.
Well, as you're looking, I want to ask Luke a question too, and I don't want to jump the gun. It may be for next month's update, but we do have other sidebars where the admins talk, and we have group experts, and we have different other outlets in which the three of us are in that we always talk. And I thought I've seen a couple of sales. I can't remember if it's been recently or January, but it's in this time frame, early this year, that there's been some sales of cards that have sold for high amounts, but they haven't been sold in like 2 years. So there's been like a couple of them that have just all of a sudden showed up, and then they just break the record. So there's other cards that are just hanging up in people's collections that just happen to show up, and boom, it's the record.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a better job of keeping the group update on this. JP, you're right. Like for a while now, I've been trying to there's a group of us behind the scenes that, are really clued in. And I try to send like to the messenger, Facebook Messenger, like, here's a notable sale. Like I just found this really interesting because I'm daily tracking. And now I am posting it out to the entire group and updating, hey, there's this sale of this card. I think one was just this last week was like a Darth Vader Japanese PSA 7 or PSA 8 or something.
620.
620. Yeah. $620. Which hadn't been sold in a while, right? There's only like 3 data points. So I find all that stuff is fascinating when I find something that is like either unusual, haven't had a data point in a long time, or a really high sale. Like I try to inform everybody about that, just because I think the more transparency, the better. People are going to miss these unless someone brings attention to them, unless you're the buyer or seller. Like no one's going to know unless you're looking really closely at the tracker and comparing a previous sale. So if I shout out like, hey, there hasn't been a sale of this card, or this is the highest sale in the last 2 years. I think another example was like a Leia Organa PSA 9 Premier Limited just sold for $99, and that was the highest sale in the last couple of years. So yeah, trying to track that sort of stuff so that people have a better understanding of kind of what's going on in the market.
Well, thank you for your service, man. It's just amazingly great stuff.
Yeah, definitely appreciate all the transparency. I know the community does for sure as well. So, well, with all this being said, I know you meant it is February 12th. Was there anything else you wanted to highlight from the month thus far? It seemed like you were itching to speak to that. I don't see why you can't do that. But
well, yeah, I don't have anything in particular. I don't think there's been any $1,000 sales. I could be wrong already. I mean, anything that's like that high, I kind of flag. Yeah, I mean, we've seen some pretty big data points already. Again, those cards that I mentioned before, those premium Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, Emperor Palpatine, Darth Maul Young Apprentice, like one of those sold recently, I think. Those are always heavy hitters. Like whenever those move, they go for a premium, and those are certainly holding value.
Good stuff. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, this has been fantastic, and I hope everybody is going to submit or consider submitting to the contests. And we'll touch base next month for February's winners. Keep in mind, we have the more contest categories. All those will be posted on the Facebook group. So if you want to know what's coming in for March, April, May, we have those out there. Where did I put him here? March is foil locations and planets. April is cards with Destiny 3, number 3. And
that's going to be a big one. There's a lot of cards. I was looking at this already. There's a lot of Destiny 3 cards.
That's good. So April should be busy. And then May, we have devices and or creatures.
Another good one.
So could be 2 devices, could be 2 creatures, could be a device and a creature. But yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys.
All right.
All right. Take care. See you in a couple of weeks, I guess.
Yep. 2 weeks.
All right.